3,000 families, 3,000 livelihoods built over decades of dedication, gone. The Stellantis assembly plant in Brampton, a cornerstone of Canadian auto manufacturing, is being gutted. The retooling for the new Jeep Compass, canceled. The production moved to the United States. For the 3,000 highly skilled workers of Unifor Local 1285, the news wasn't delivered in a town hall. It wasn't delivered in a meeting with management. They learned their careers were over from an automated message. An automated message. A cold, impersonal, digital notification to end decades of labor. If you want a symbol for how corporations view the workforce today, that is it. You are not a person. You are not a partner. You are a line item that can be deleted with a keystroke. The outrage was immediate. The media descended. The politicians scrambled to find the nearest microphone. And almost immediately, a simple, convenient narrative was formed. A villain emerged. The story, as we are told, is this. This is an act of aggression. This is an attack on the Canadian economy. This is a trade war started by Donald Trump, and his America First tariffs are hunting Canadian jobs. This is the story we are being sold. It's simple. It's emotional. It gives us a clear enemy to blame. It feels right. But here is the hard truth. What if that entire story is a distraction? The pivot, the insider truth, the turning point. What if the politicians and the media are deliberately focusing on the foreign tariffs was to stop you from looking at the domestic failure? What if the 3,000 jobs at Brampton weren't stolen by an American president, but were pushed out by Canada's own leadership? Most media outlets won't say this out loud, but if you look past the political theater, you'll find a single, devastating quote from the original news reports. A quote that explains everything. Speaking about the move, sources confirmed, Stellantis didn't move because Donald Trump pressured them. They moved because it made business sense. Business sense. Those three words are the key. Those three words are the automated message that corporations send to governments. They are cold, they are logical, and they are final. In this video, we are not going to talk about politics. We are not going to talk about Doug Ford's outrage or Mark Carney's silence. We are going to do the math. Persona, veteran economic strategist, activating. We are going to follow the money. We will analyze the business sense behind this decision, and we will reveal the real reason corporations are fleeing Canada. Because the truth is not in Washington, the truth is in Ottawa. Module 3, the pattern, case file 1 and 2. The pattern. If this was just one company, we could call it an anomaly. We could blame it on unique circumstances, on a single bad negotiation. But it's not. This is not an anomaly. This is a pattern. Let's open the case files. Case file number 1, Stellantis. The media wants you to focus on the 35% tariff. But from the perspective of a CEO, a foreigner, the tariff is just one line on a very long spreadsheet. You have to look at the entire balance sheet. Cost of labor, cost of logistics, cost of retooling, and the two big ones, the cost of energy and the cost of regulation. When Stellantis looked at that spreadsheet for Brampton, the numbers didn't add up. The cost to operate in Canada versus the cost to operate in a place like Michigan or Ohio was no longer competitive. The tariffs didn't cause the move. The tariffs simply made a bad decision. Obvious. But as I said, this isn't just about Stellantis. Case file number 2, Diageo, Crown Royal. Let's talk about whiskey. In 2024, Diageo, the global beverage giant and the maker of Crown Royal, delivered a similar message. They warned that Canada's complex and costly business climate, specifically its high excise taxes and interprovincial trade barriers, was making it too difficult to invest here. The CEO of Diageo North America stated, and I quote, "It is easier to import a bottle of Crown Royal into the UK than it is to ship it from Ontario to Quebec." Think about that. From cars to whiskey, the message is the same. This is not a trade war problem. This is a Canada problem. And the numbers back this up. This isn't just a feeling, it's a fact. Data from Statistics Canada, published in May 2025, showed that manufacturing sales fell 2.8% in April alone. The decline was led, unsurprisingly, by the auto sector. This is not growth. This is contraction. And where is the new investment? It's not coming. Market reports from Altus Group, a commercial real estate data firm, confirm a marked decrease in demand for new industrial construction in Canada. They report that investors are scaling back activity and there is a palpable slowdown. In plain English, people are not building factories here. They are not investing. They are leaving. The Stellantis shutdown isn't the start of the crisis. It is the result of a crisis that has been building for years. This is a full-blown corporate exodus. And now, we must ask the most important question of all. Why? Module 4. The why, the real culprit. Decoding the business sense. If you want to understand why capital is fleeing a country, you only need to look at three things: the cost of energy, the cost of regulation, and the incentive to invest. On all three counts, Canada is no longer competitive. Let's break down the real reasons this made business sense. Culprit number 1, the unseen tax, energy prices. Modern manufacturing runs on one thing: energy, robots, assembly lines, smelters, data centers. They are all hungry for massive, reliable, and cheap electricity. And in Canada, energy is rapidly becoming a luxury. For years, Canada had a competitive advantage. That advantage is gone. According to data from the International Energy Agency and the Canadian Energy Regulator, the average industrial electricity price in Canada is now approximately 9 cents US per kilowatt hour. The US average? Around 8 cents. Now, 1 cent might not sound like much to you, but you are not running a gigafactory. To a plant like the one in Brampton, a 1 cent difference is not 1 cent. It is millions of dollars per year. It is the difference between profit and loss. It's the line item that a CEO in Amsterdam or Detroit circles in red. And that's just the average. In key U.S. manufacturing states that compete directly with Ontario, like Ohio or Michigan, special industrial rates and energy incentives can make that gap even wider. When a corporation runs the numbers, they see one country where energy costs are stable and supported, and another where they are rising, penalized, and unpredictable. The choice becomes simple. Culprit number 2, the red tape, the regulatory burden. It's not just the cost of energy, it is the cost of policy. It is the cost of red tape. Let's talk about the carbon tax. On April 1st, 2024, the Canadian federal carbon tax increased again to $80 per ton. Politicians sell this as a simple green initiative, but in the world of manufacturing, it is a stacked, compounding, and crippling cost. It is not just a tax you pay at the pump. It's a tax on the natural gas used to heat the factory. It's a tax on the transportation used to bring in every single bolt, every single sheet of steel. It's a tax baked into the cost of the steel and aluminum itself. It is a tax, stacked on a tax, stacked on a regulation. According to a detailed analysis by the Fraser Institute, when that tax hits its target of $170 per ton in 2030, it will reduce Canada's GDP by 1.8%. It will cause a permanent loss of nearly 185,000 jobs, and it will hit manufacturing the hardest. The Fraser Institute's report was clear, and I quote, "This policy is being stacked on top of other costly regulations, which places Canadian businesses at a competitive disadvantage globally." Think about that. Competitive disadvantage. That is the language of the business sense memo. It is the economic way of saying we are leaving. Culprit number 3, the investment collapse, the IRA effect. For years, the narrative was that Canada's high taxes were the problem. But our fact check in Step 5 revealed something shocking. On paper, Canada's federal corporate tax rate is lower than the US rate. So if it's not the corporate tax rate, what is it? It is the incentives. The biggest culprit is not what Canada has. It is what Canada lacks. Right now, the United States and Canada are in a silent war. It is a war for investment, it is a war for factories, and Canada is losing, badly, while Canada is punishing its industries with new taxes and slow-moving regulations. The United States is rewarding them. The U.S. passed something called the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA. It has nothing to do with inflation. It is the single largest industrial subsidy program in modern history. It has unleashed what the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, or CME, calls a factory-building boom in the United States. The IRA offers massive, fast, and simple tax credits for building factories, for green energy, for electric vehicles. It is a giant pull factor, sucking investment south of the border. So what is Canada's response? The CME, which represents Canadian manufacturing, released a devastating report card. They warned the Canadian government that its response to the IRA is not attractive enough. They warned that the incentives are being rolled out too slowly. They warned, and I quote directly from their 2024 report, Canada is continuing to lose investment to the U.S. This is the final piece of the puzzle. This is the business sense. Imagine you are the CEO of Stellantis. You have $1 to invest. In the United States, the IRA gives you a 30% credit, fast. The energy is cheaper. The regulations are simpler. The government is actively helping you build. In Canada, the energy is more expensive. A new carbon tax is hitting your entire supply chain, and the government's response to the IRA is too slow and not attractive. What do? You don't think. You don't feel. You are not a Canadian. You are not an American. You are a corporation. You follow the math. You send the automated message. Module 5, Conclusion, the spike in the flywheel. So let's go back to the beginning. The 3,000 jobs, the closed plant, the political outrage. The simple, easy story is that this was an attack, that it was a trade war, that it was the fault of a foreign leader. The hard truth, 0047, is much worse. This was not a trade war. It was a business climate calculation. The 300 jobs at Brampton were not stolen by an American president. They were pushed out by a Canadian domestic policy that has made it uncompetitive to build, to invest, and to succeed. The automated message that those 3,000 workers received, it wasn't an act of aggression. It was a cold, simple, and logical calculation. And Canada's own policies made the math easy. After seeing the numbers, who do you think is the bigger threat to Canadian jobs? Foreign tariffs or domestic policy? Let me know in the comments. But the story, it gets even crazier. We have seen why Stellantis left. But what about the billions of dollars in Canadian taxpayer money they already took? The fact check is stunning. The Canadian government had already committed to a $3.6 billion deal for upgrades, including at Brampton, and they committed to a separate $15 billion deal for the Windsor battery plant. They were given billions, and they left anyway. In the next video, we are going to follow the money and ask the one question no one else will. Is this incompetence, or is this something else? Click here to watch.